Is SEO really dead? And if it is, why is one of the world's biggest AI companies recruiting for an SEO lead with a salary of up to $350K? So in this episode of the LiftKit Marketing Podcast, we're going to get into it. We sit down with Mordy Orberstein. He's head of brand at SE Ranking, and we're going to have a conversation that challenges some of marketing's most popular assumptions. We get into why brand identity is the thing most companies are skipping right now, and why that one mistake could break everything else. We also talk about prompt tracking, and that might be the most overhyped tactic in marketing right now. And in a world where AI is answering questions before anyone clicks, what is the purpose of your website? What does it actually need to become? So if you think SEO is just keywords and blog posts, this episode is going to change how you see the entire discipline. And if you're a brand leader trying to figure out where to place your bets, Mordy has some opinions on that as well. Let's get into it. It's hard not to talk about SEO these days. It's every time we jump on here, Danielle, it's like there's something new going on, and Claude Code's like the hot thing right now that everyone's talking about. But something that you pointed out to me, which I thought was just really, really interesting, is looking at Anthropic's LinkedIn profile. There are something like 600 job openings at Anthropic. And one of them really stood out to me, the SEO lead. So Anthropic is hiring an SEO lead, and the salary range was like $250K to $350K. I mean, the job description alone was like, I couldn't take my eyes off it, because the recipe behind what they're looking for in this SEO lead role, I mean, it's like a map for other companies to like take note of. And so when you think about everyone talking about, hey, is AI replacing jobs? If so, why is the largest AI company hiring so many people?
Right.
And then considering how many people are saying, hey, I think SEO is dead. Why is the biggest AI company hiring an SEO lead? And when you look at that job description, it's very SEO. It's old-fashioned technical SEO stuff that they're really looking to implement and leverage. So I think that the short answer, and I want to get your take on it, AI is not going to steal your job, and SEO is not dead. It's just different.
Mm-hmm.
But thanks for pointing that out to me. I just thought it was really interesting.
Yeah. I mean, the conversation, everybody right now on LinkedIn is like, SEO isn't dead. See, however, I don't think a lot of people actually went to the job description and looked, because it is not a copywriting job. This is not your expectation is to blog 5 times a day. Like when we think about old school SEO, it was copywriting. This is so technical. I would say SEO is kind of moving more out of a marketing role, like traditional marketing role, and more into an engineer role, because the things that I was seeing, it was just like so extremely technical that I would title it SEO engineering. And I think from my perspective at Atelier Commerce, what we're doing for our clients, it is, again, that technical SEO of data input and how the LLM is reading that data. And I talk to clients all the time, like, you first have to talk to a robot, and then you have to talk to a human. And so if you don't have that technical aspect done, then you're not going to even have the opportunity to be introduced to a human. And that's the part where I think like SEO isn't dead, but it is definitely, it's evolved.
Oh yeah. No, you have to look at it completely different. I mean, we've got clients at LiftKit Marketing where we're doing SEO work for, strong B2B type SEO work. And, I just got done wrapping up 2025. I did some year over year comparison on organic traffic from 2024 to 2025, expecting to see flat and down from organic traffic and maybe a spike from the AI platforms. And we're talking about a small sample size here. I'm not a huge agency, but the accounts I've got, everyone was showing year over year growth in the good old organic SEO type traffic. So we're not necessarily impacted yet. There's also some lift in the AI traffic coming in, but I'm really excited about our guest, because they're definitely gonna have something to say about our little conversation here, and I can't wait for them to weigh in. But I think it's becoming more about just how you show up in general, right? It's more than just a Google ranking. What happens when people search for your products on other places like YouTube and Facebook and Instagram and Reddit. And of course, these AI platforms, it's how you show up in these environments, and you've got to be looking at everything holistically, and are they even clicking through? Do they get what they need in an answer and not even bother going to the website, which raises a whole nother question, because what role does a website actually play in 2029? I mean, where is this going, right?
Yeah.
So I'm
Having
really excited.
conversation all the time about, yeah, what do we even need a website in the future? I'm so excited to actually
Yeah.
see it happen because the conversations I've been having are maybe it's the source of truth and it's your back end, but being able on the e-commerce side, you could be able to purchase on all of these other things without leaving the app. You can buy in Meta, you can buy in ChatGPT, you can buy everywhere. So why do you need a website except for the infrastructure of the data?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's get into it. You ready? Drum roll.
Yes.
Okay. So today's guest is Mordy Orberstein. Mordy's a brand strategist and a marketing leader with a focus on helping companies build authority, momentum, and growth. Mordy currently serves as head of brand at SE Ranking, where he leads brand strategy across search, product marketing, and emerging AI and LLM visibility. Mordy played a central role in repositioning Wix brand within the SEO digital marketing community, as the public face of Wix to professional marketers, and later as the head of SEO brand. He led the strategy that reshaped perceptions of Wix's SEO capabilities, which at the time was no small task, I'm sure. So welcome, Mordy.
Hey, thanks for having me. Yeah, that was a notch in the belt, that Wix sync.
Absolutely. Mordy, you and I go back to, working together at NP Digital and exploring opportunities for strategic partnerships. And it was just a pleasure getting to know you then. And I really appreciate you taking the time to join our little podcast here. I'm really curious to get your take on kind of what we were just talking about with Anthropic and SEO and, the 600 positions they're hiring for. What's your take on all that?
I saw Mike King from iPull Rank. I don't remember the exact post. I'm trying to pull it up while I'm talking here. But he was saying, the ads and Anthropic released for the Super Bowl, which were great. I love them. I don't know if anyone's seen them yet.
Yeah.
I don't know when this episode was coming out. They're awesome. And he had a comment that the ads are great and they definitely need an SEO. And he showed, I think it was a blog post where they had the title of the post was a prompt. And now it's like ranking for some crazy thing or the opposite. I don't remember the exact case, but he showed like a real case from Anthropic where it was all over the place for their SEO. So they definitely are making the right move hiring SEOs. And it is interesting, like SEO is dead and here's Anthropic hiring SEOs, right? But SEO is not there. Google is still the largest share of traffic across any channel, and it's not even close. But the conversation is more complicated because of the whole visibility thing in LLMs. LLMs are on the rise and they're not going away. And even on Google, it's there. And to me, this is amazing to watch because you're seeing basically performance marketing now have to deal with the fact that you don't necessarily have the performance, you just have the brand. And how do we deal with that? And for performance marketers like SEOs, this is very new and very confusing. If you've been running TV ads since the 1950s, you're like sitting there like, this is not yeah, welcome to my world. You can't measure it exactly.
I love it.
Yeah, I love that you brought up brand there. I mean, when you look at brands right now that are struggling, do you think their problem is more about weak messaging or is it more about unclear identity?
I'm big on this. It's the unclear identity. This is where brands miss everything. I'll tell you, like when I joined SE Ranking at the end of December, the first thing I did was doing an audit, repositioning a couple of things. We bought a tool called Plannable, which is an SEO. It's a social media software, which is really cool because now you can do things like correlate what's happening on search and in LLMs, where you can correlate what's happening in LLMs, what's happening in search, and correlate that was happening on social. And one of the things the first thing I did was when we're repositioning some things was focus on brand identity. And I did a deck. And I wrote in the deck, I know that there's no immediate KPI for brand identity, but if you skip this step, all the other steps will be completely screwed up. And that's exactly what happened when I was back at Wix. Wix launched something called oh man, I'm blanking, Wix Studio. And we were creating a new LP. Wix Studio was meant for, I guess still meant for, I have no idea what they're up to with it, but it's a platform built for design agencies, web design agencies. And we were creating a new LP under the folder on the website for Wix Studio about SEO. And I was doing some research. And this is maybe, I don't know, 5 months after the whole AI thing hit the internet. And every LP had on it, powered by AI, powered by AI, powered by AI. Really? In 5 seconds flat, you powered your entire solution with AI already? Amazing. Which, by the way, on LinkedIn now you can find, I've already seen blog posts about this, how to optimize your ChatGPT ads. Really? You figured that out already? It's amazing. But yeah, the AI equation of it all, and just where brands just lose their identity, they see something shiny and they go after it. And the problem is that if you have brand identity, that will hold you back from going off the rails. Because then you'll be able to say, well, this is who we are. And this pivot, okay, that aligns with who we are, or no, this pivot doesn't align with who we are. And when you see brands going off the rails with AI, it's generally because they didn't have that brand identity pinned down.
Wow. I say louder for the people in the back. Before you hopped on, I actually said something very similar to John about that. So just because I've worked with so many clients, and that's the first thing that I see, like, if that's not the strong foundation, it's like, when the wind blows, everything just topples over because they're like, yeah, let's just chase this shiny new thing. Oh, AI, like, yeah, let's put that on the landing page. That sounds good. Or this is what people want. And not even considering if it's aligned with the brand, because so many times, I actually think, like you said, people just skip over it entirely. They just dive in like, well, this will be fun, not even considering what their position is or what copy they should repeat over and over and over. I'm excited to dive in. Like, could we take a step back and go into where you were as 18-year-old Mordy, deciding what you wanted to do for the rest of your life? Was it branding, or what got you started in marketing?
We go back to high school. This is a great story. And this is not my typical personality. It's a moment in time. I completely hacked the system. I'm generally against, growth hacks, that sort of thing is not my forte. But I realized that if I dropped out of high school and and I took college courses at a certain program, I can get a degree, I can get a high school degree retroactively while having college credits. So I hacked the system, which, by the way, crazy story. I had to do paperwork in order to get this thing pulled through. This whole thing was crazy. And it happened to be on 9/11 at a high school across from Manhattan, right directly in the Queens Bay area, directly across from Manhattan. That was like, the smoke was going overhead. That was insane. So that's my high school. After the crash in 2008, now I'm like really dating myself. The property the whole real estate world was insane. We were losing buildings to receivership and foreclosure to a bank, and taking buildings in a receivership for the same bank who foreclosed on somebody else's buildings. And I was done. I was fried. And I did a program called Teach for America. They throw you into the classroom. And from there, that's how I actually got into marketing. Because after I did that, I was working for an educational software company in Israel. And they didn't have anyone who spoke native English writing for them at that point except for me. And they said, can you write web copy? I'm like, yeah, I can write anything. I could write anything. I started off like, I'm very good at writing. Great. Whatever you want, I'll write it. It's like, great. Can you get organic traffic? And I said, sure. What's that? And then I got into marketing. My search engine land used to have a periodic table of SEO. And that was the first thing I read.
So what did you study in college?
History. And I have a master's in education.
Well, being able to write is kind of a critical aspect of marketing these days, especially in the advent of AI, because English is like the new code. It's like the language, to build things and create things.
I always say, like, it's funny, like, oh, I have a degree, I have a master's degree in education. Big wig. What has that done for me? Other than nothing. But marketing is really communication. That's what marketing fundamentally is. So communicating is, when there's nothing harder than trying to communicate and figure out how to connect to a 9-year-old who does not want to be in that room with you. And that's really marketing, right? Your audience may not. You're doing social media. You're on social media, rather doing social media. You do not want to see some ad pop up. So you have
Right.
to communicate to somebody who doesn't really want to see you right now. That's marketing.
100%. So you like shift it, you start writing these SEO articles, right? Or just trying to help this organization. And then you realized I really like doing this, or what was
I
the
really like I really like the writing part of it. I really thought the whole thing was fascinating. And then I started working for a company called Rank Ranger, which no longer exists. They were one of the SEO software tools way back. Back in the days, funny now you see a million AI LLM prompt trackers. So back in the day, there was a million SEO rank trackers, and now there's like 3 left. Right? There's SE
right.
ranking, I work for. There's Ahrefs and there's SEMrush. And if you want to go like enterprise, I guess there's Brightedge and Conductor. So back then there was a company called Rank Ranger, and they hired me to be their content manager. And that's where it really like clicked, because now I had access to big data. I was tracking algorithm updates. So it's funny because they got bought out by SimilarWeb and they no longer actually exist. I think the tool got completely absorbed. But when there was I built a data set to track the algorithm when I was there with my bare hands. Like I literally went keyword by keyword by keyword, like what I wanted to include in that data set. And when the search engine land covers an algorithm update, I would send them data. I would send Barry Schwartz data. Barry Schwartz, like the godfather of SEO. And it's funny because when I went to SEMrush, I rebuilt a lot of their metrics for tracking the algorithm. So now when Barry covers the algorithm at search engine land, he's using SimilarWeb data, which I built when I was at Rank Ranger, and he's using SEMrush data, which I reorganized when I got to SEMrush. So the whole world of like algorithmic reporting is completely screwed up because I've messed up all these data sets. So nothing is right.
You take full responsibility.
I take full responsibility if you're like that. What Barry's talking about in this algorithm post, it makes no sense. This data sucks. My fault.
This is so crazy. It's like, okay, because normally you talk to somebody in branding and they went to art school or, have some sort of graphic design, creative background. You're coming at this from a whole nother angle, not just the teaching, but like SEO, copywriting. And then how did this now turn into your writing and turn into a branding role?
A really good question. I wish I could answer that simply. I was at Rank Ranger and it was a one-man marketing team. There was no marketing budget. And I'm figuring out like, I don't know how to answer the question. Look, I could tell you what I did. Like I realized, okay, we don't have a big budget. We have data. Let's market through the data. Let's share data with all of the news publishers, like the SEO news publishers, and build up the brand that way. And I think like, if you want me to like really answer the question, it's because I just took responsibility for it. And it wasn't really in my, I could have, they asked me, like, we want you to manage the blog. And I could have just managed the blog. But I felt there was so much opportunity to do cool stuff. And I just did it. And I took responsibility for it. And I think that was the moment, first as a career, where like, if you take responsibility for things that maybe aren't exactly in your wheelhouse, but you feel responsible for them and build the initiative to grow that, then cool things open up. And I really felt passionate about growing that brand. Like I felt at the time there was Moz, who was huge at the time, and SEMrush was just coming on the scene. And I felt like we had such a great tool. Like, what are we, like, we have to do something here. And it just, from there, turned into a brand overlapping with writing, overlapping with SEO, and this weird mixture. And I guess I have a left brain, right brain thing going on at the same time, even though I'm not good at math. Like, I suck at math.
Well, that early days SEO experience is what makes you so valuable right now. You've got such a great background and you've ended up in these amazing roles. So now, what advice do you have for someone, just getting into marketing, and just trying to get their head around SEO in general? What other advice, in addition to what you kind of just mentioned, would you have for these newcomers?
I think SEO is in a weird place. I feel it's almost everyone's kind of fighting for that. And first off, my advice is when you go on social media, realize that everybody is fighting for their corner of the internet. So you have CEOs who are going to be anti-AI, GEOs, is that even the thing, who are anti-SEO. You'll have the LLM tools saying you should track 1 million prompts. I'm saying that as someone who works at a tool that tracks prompts, you don't need to track 1 million prompts. Don't waste your money on that. Track what's actually important. They're not keywords. They're directional. And I think you're coming to a SEO at a weird time, in a good time. And I would say, like, my advice is to think holistically about things. And I know it's going to be a weird thing to say because SEO is all about performance and data, but I think performance marketing is fundamentally shifting. Rand Fishkin talks a lot about this. Will Reynolds talks a lot about this. So it's not just my idea. We have been living in a alternate universe as marketers for the last God knows how many years. It's been bonkers. It's so crazy. I compare it to walking down the street, punching someone in the face, and then trying to sell them an insurance policy in the same breath. Because we went around, we created all sorts of content that people didn't want, that wasn't helpful. We created all sorts of shenanigans and hacks or whatever to growth marketing, and we weren't doing it on purpose. It was just that's what digital was. Now it's not, and we're asking the consumer to start trusting us, to start believing in us, to have credibility after we just spent the last 20 years punching them in the face with content they didn't really want, that wasn't a good experience, that was overselling to them, that wasn't really considerate to them, that was really just trying to turn a click into a conversion, that didn't really think about what their actual need was or care if it made sense for them to actually buy it or not. And I think performance marketers have been living in a fantasy, because there's been this direct attribution that's existed for so long, which never really, God, 8, 9 years ago, Google wrote a blog post about the funnel is messy. And we're still sitting here. I think the funnel might be messy. Hey, Bob, the funnel, yeah. Or AI is caused a huge disruption. People aren't going just to the website from search. Really? Will Reynolds actually sent this to me. There's a brand of Nike or a line of Nike shoes called Mars something or other. I would never buy them. They're way too expensive. I'm not a shoe person. But the story behind them was super cool. If you could find the video that Nike put out about this, it's amazing. Their whole story, the whole brand story. I was going to buy a pair right afterwards. If I was going to buy that pair of shoe, I might Google it. Then I might see okay, I'll go to Amazon, see how much they are. I would go to YouTube and see what a YouTuber, someone who actually reviewed it, said. I might go back to Amazon, look at it again, look at some more reviews, go to Google, see if I can find it cheaper. AI is just another step now. Okay, so now I get the answer in AI and I do the same thing. It hasn't fundamentally shifted how people behave. It wasn't like Google, click, buy. That wasn't what the reality was. And I understand for websites like NerdWallet, where they had the affiliate thing going on, that's completely disruptive, because now when I Google best credit card, I don't go to NerdWallet, see what they write, go to another website, see what they wrote, go to another, and then go back to NerdWallet and click on their affiliate link. Instead, I see that the IO review tells me, if you want a travel card, your best one is going to be Capital One, Visa, Master, whatever it is. And I just go from there and I skip over NerdWallet. So for them, that is completely disruptive. But I'll argue back that a lot of that stuff was never really good for the user to begin with from the start. But the way the internet was built, we were allowed to, or we got a pass on creating things that people didn't really need, or looking at attribution in ways that didn't actually make sense. And now you can't get away with that anymore. So if you're an SEO coming into this, I'll say to you, you're going to hear and see a lot of people thinking in a way that doesn't actually align to reality anymore. And the truth is that it never really did. And they just can't get away with it anymore because the ecosystem has shifted.
Yeah. I mean, it feels like everything is breaking right now because the consumers actually are showing we didn't like this process before, but you shoved it down our throats. I hate pop-ups. We do pop-ups because they work. But if I had my way, I would communicate in a completely different way, because I think they're so annoying. There's so many things where it's this is the way we do it, because as marketers, these are the tools that are available to us. And what is happening right now is everybody's yeah, let's create a new tool because this doesn't even make sense. It never made sense.
That's really the hard part. And I think that this is a hard part in general about more brand focused kind of take on reality or marketing reality. As if marketing is reality. The results are not immediate. I forgot where I saw this, or someone was commenting on something, and they were saying, well, yeah, it's about tracking prompts. So tracking prompts is very directional, and you need to correlate what you're seeing. Like, where's the value in the prompt? So like, I'll tell you the way we look at it at pitch for SEO ranking is it's an ecosystem. So you need to qualify how the ecosystem is treating you. So if the LLM is mentioning you, what's happening in branded search, or what's happening with your direct traffic, right? Or what's happening on the social, are you getting more followers, more engagement, better engagement? What's happening on the revenue side? How do you qualify all of this? And I think what the problem with, someone was replying back to a post, I think, and they were saying like, well, I just look at revenue as a way to measure the impact of LLM on visibility, which is nice. That's true. But sometimes when you're doing something on the brand side, it's like three-dimensional chess. You're doing one thing, which will lead to the next thing, which will allow you to do the next thing, which will then let you build revenue. So if you're just trying to track revenue as a one-to-one to, let's say, LLM visibility, that doesn't always line up to how real marketing always works. So I think like we're still kind of stuck in that a little bit too linear sort of mindset, even though we know we have to break out of it.
Right.
One of the predictions I'm hearing from a lot of the SEOs out there is that, yeah, your organic traffic is going to go down. There's no doubt. But the quality of the people visiting your site is going to go up. So you should expect a higher conversion rate. And the reason that is because they're doing their research, they're getting their answers, without having to visit websites, because they're engaging with AI and getting what they need. And then when the time comes to actually make a purchase or a conversion, that's when they're going to go to the website. So, well, what's your theory on that?
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. And I think if you're at that stage of brand development where you're fully matured as a product, I'll give you an actual case, like, because I know like so thorough. If you're at that stage of brand development where you're able to make that conversion, so that would definitely be happening. But I'll tell you, like, so like when I first started at Wix had a horrible reputation for SEO. It was like, I don't know, I can't think of like anything that I had in a vertical that had a worse reputation than SEO and Wix. I'm trying to think, maybe the Trabant and cars. That's an old poll. And I remember asking, they wanted to, let's build a hub, like where we can have like a blog about SEO, which by the way, there is now a Wix SEO hub. And I said, you have no credibility. Like no one's gonna want to read a blog post about SEO from Wix. I remember going around and asking SEO influencers, if Wix wrote content about you, and they're like, no. And showing people, like, I asked 10 people and they all said no.
Well, a part of it too was Wix had no infrastructure for SEO. Like you build a website, it wouldn't rank because you couldn't do anything as a developer.
That's by the way, we're talking about like marketing, like that's the real story. Like sometimes it's not a marketing problem, it's a product problem. And you just need to fix the product and then do the marketing. And that's where I think marketers get lost. Like, oh, we'll market our way out of this. Well, sometimes you can't. You just have a product problem and you have to speak. Your marketing and positioning has to move along with where your product development is. As it gets more mature, your brand positioning gets more mature along with the product. They both have to move together, which is like marketers just like completely just unfollowed me on LinkedIn for saying that. What we did though was say like, by the way, so eventually Wix did create a whole blog and it did get traffic and it did get conversions of people signing up for websites, but that took a long time to happen. A lot of other things had to happen first. So if you're looking at LLM visibility and saying, well, SEOs are going to look at which is the best platform for SEO, and they're going to see Wix and they're going to sign up and they're going to convert, they're going to do all these things. And they will see better revenue because we're getting a more researched client showing up. That's true. But if it was 2026 back then, I would have wanted the mentions in the LLM that Wix is good for SEO and wouldn't care a lick about whether or not we're getting clicks, conversions, signups yet. All I want is that perception to start changing so that eventually we can start creating the assets that would lead to revenue and conversion and that higher conversion rate. So I agree with you. You'll see a higher conversion rate if your product or offering is at that mature stage where that audience is ready to convert. If it's not, don't ignore the LLM visibility because, oh, we're not getting the conversion, because that might be the first step in changing the audience perception and allowing you to position in a new way, which will allow you to get conversions eventually.
100%. So like, I mean, I still like you're looking at your story and everything from a branding side. You mentioned Nike. Like, do you think Nike, their branding is the same as like how you're approaching branding at SE Ranking?
It was. Nike's a great story, by the way. Folks don't know the story. So Nike during COVID, I don't know what goes through people's minds. It's one of those moments like, your brain hits the inside of your skull and splatters a little bit. Nike's COVID happened. People were not going to Foot Locker to buy shoes anymore, and they went online to buy shoes. Nike thought this will last forever. People are not going to want to go back to the store ever to buy for shoes. Lo and behold, when stores started reopening, shoes were the kind of thing that people kind of wanted to try on first. I mean, I'll buy shoes online, I don't care. But a lot of people wanted to go to the store. Nike said, we're going to stay online and we're going to switch to B2B, so they weren't focusing so much on the retailers like Foot Locker. Foot Locker had open shelf space now and started putting up other brands like On and Hoka. So Nike literally opened the door for their competitors. And then what happened was the competitors started growing, Nike's market share started shrinking, and their stock tanked. And Nike said, let's go back to brand. I don't know, maybe like a year or two ago. But the way they went back to brand was trying to build performance without doing it the right way. So I'll give you it's just the Olympics. They started. The Summer Olympics, so it's got to be like 2 years ago, Nike ran an ad about, it was one of these ads, like it's all these like basketball stars, like basically like if I shove you to the ground and I destroy you, am I a bad person? No, I'm just a winner. And I'm thinking, it's the Olympics. It's all about like team and unity, and you're running an ad about destroying the other person and winning. Something's not firing on all cylinders. So I think Nike does not think about brand the way I'm thinking about brand right now. I think at one point they did. Back when they built up the whole brand, the whole Jordan thing, that was amazing. They're not that anymore. They're a shell of themselves, in my honest opinion. It might be a hot take.
Yeah, no, I think they probably took themselves for granted. They took branding for granted. They figured they had that covered and started to experiment.
Yep. And now sometimes you can't find that magic again. It's hard.
Yeah. And so kind of along those lines, if a company wants to future-proof their brand right now, where should they be investing their energy?
It's always I don't think it's a new thing. That's my thing is that it's not new. Again, if you were running ads in the 50s, you have the problem now if you're running ads. How do you measure all this stuff? How do you build up the brand? And I think what happens is that people don't realize that it's really about connection, which goes back to the communication thing. And once there's connection, you can start generating momentum. And I'll give you I always try to give like hard examples of this. So like prompt tracking. Prompt tracking right now is a big contentious issue in the SEO space. Tools will tell you have to track as many prompts as possible. Otherwise, you're missing out on the LLM equation and you're missing out on all the visibility and all the whatever. I'm telling our team that our market, and we're trying to speak to a more mature market, are not falling for that. And there's a lot of posts. Rand Fishkin did a whole post and a whole study about how what shows up in LLMs is so inconsistent. And a lot of people are starting to talk about, well, maybe prompt tracking isn't as necessary as you might think. Like you don't need 4 million prompts. And I'm telling our team, it's okay to say that. It's okay to say that prompt tracking is directional. So if I'm Sony, I don't need to track 4 million prompts about TVs like I did keywords. Because maybe if like a money keyword, I'm not ranking and I need to rank because that'll bring in a lot of traffic. I really need to. LLMs are so inconsistent. They're so wonky. They're so willy-nilly to a certain extent, and they're personalized. So what you get for one person to one day to the next day is not going to be the same. I can literally ask AI right now, like, why the Jets suck so much? And it'll tell me one thing, and I can ask it again in five minutes from now, and it'll tell me another reason. Mainly because there are a lot of reasons why the Jets suck, so that's not on AI. But If you're tracking prompts, if I'm Sony, I don't need to track 500 prompts about, or 5 million prompts about TVs. I need to track so that directionally I understand how the AI, how the LLMs are perceiving us. It's not about visibility per se. I think that's a misnomer. It's about how does AI perceive you? And if it perceives you a certain way, then that's how for TVs, AI understands that we're a little bit more expensive because we're higher quality. I don't need to track 50 prompts to figure that out. Or I mean, 5 million prompts to figure that out. And I'm telling our team, we don't need to position ourselves in this fantasy of, well, we can't say anything negative against tracking prompts because then people won't track prompts, as if the audience is stupid. As if the head of an agency doesn't know that they don't need to, if I were to tell them they need to track 5,000 prompts, I'm just trying to milk them for money. So if you're trying to position your brand for the future, my biggest piece of advice is if there's audience skepticism and audience hesitancy, which there always is, no matter what your brand is, lean into it and don't try to get around it. So if it's legitimate, if it's real, then just lean into it.
How do you respond to this? We've got really good traditional SEO. We got really good rankings on Google. We're doing everything right in terms of the EEAT methodology. We shouldn't have to worry about AI. We're just going to keep focusing on good SEO work, and I think it'll pay off when it comes to AI as well.
I don't necessarily have a problem. I think I'll give you a case. If I'm Gatorade, right? If you were go to AI and ask it, if I wanted to get hydrated after a workout, what should I drink? Gatorade is going to show up there. Top 3, no doubt. Because they have that recognition, they have that performance, they have that awareness, they have all the collateral to do that. If I was a brand or a team where we're ranking really well, first off, you have to be careful. Danny Sullivan kind of hinted at this, and you see cases. Glenn Gabe, who's another great SEO you should follow, showed cases of this. I can tell you, I don't want to name a website that this happened to, but I know of an actual case where people did certain strategies to go after the AI visibility, and it killed off the SEO. So you need to be a little bit careful about how you go about this whole equation, where the real ROI and the real KPIs are. But if you have that collateral, you have those credentials, you have that authority, then you should be. AI is just assimilating the web. It's just a proxy of representing what's happening across the web. So if your brand has a good digital footprint across the web, which ranking is definitely a part of that, then you should show up in AI. What I would be more worried about is how does AI understand you, and what does it say and what doesn't it say about your positioning? So for example, one of the biggest issues around these kind of drinks like Gatorade is the health, because there's a lot of sugar in it. And if you ask Gatorade, this is amazing. If you ask Gatorade, I feel like an LLM spitting out nonsense. If you ask an LLM which is better to drink, vitamin water or Gatorade, it will tell you that vitamin water is generally better for day to day, and Gatorade after like an intense workout. So Gatorade, the LM is basically telling you, don't drink this thing, drink the other thing. Guess how many times the word health is mentioned on Gatorade's homepage or website altogether?
Fine.
0.
Yeah.
0. It's not on the homepage at all.
All right.
You know what vitamins, water, so this whole thing is nuts. Coke owns, there's Gatorade, which is owned by Pepsi. And then there's Body Armor, Powerade, Vitamin Water, which is all owned by Coke, which is insane. Vitamin Water's positioning is, you can go, it's a subfolder on the Coke website, it's from New York. I swear I'm not making that up. It's from New York.
That's their position?
That's the positioning. I'm from New York, so pay me money.
Yeah.
Also, the water in New York, the tap water is fine. It's really clean. That's why bagels are so good. But go to the East River and go hunt for a dead body from the 50s. Like water and New York are not associated with when I think clean water, I don't think Poland Springs in Maine. I think the East River.
So that kind of leads to something we were talking about earlier. What is the role of a website in 2029, in 3 years from now? What's the role of a website in the future?
I think websites are always a place where you can control your own narrative and are really important, because it's funny, because when one of the narratives in the whole LLM visibility thing was, well, LLMs are setting Reddit all the time, so let's spam the crap out of Reddit. Let's have a bot write up all sorts of content, and now we'll get cited in the LLM. Let's just say that worked for a second. So someone's Googling, or someone's Googling, so old. Someone's going to an LLM and prompting, searching, I don't know what we even say, for, I don't know, like, what are the best noise canceling headphones? And not that Apple will do this, but let's imagine Apple did this. They spammed Reddit with all sorts of content and subreddits and replies about how the Max 3, whatever it is the best noise canceling headphones. At some point, the consumer is going to research that device, and they're going to not just rely on that one piece of Reddit content. They might go to other social platforms. They might go to other LLMs. They might go to Google. They might go to Amazon. And they're going to see that your brand sucks and that your product actually sucks. So at some point along the research journey, the user's going to come across your brand, wherever it is. It might be they come across your brand on social. They might come across your brand at a conference. They're going to come across your brand, and they're going to see if it sucks or not. And your website is the home of that, at least in the digital age.
Yeah.
Your website is how you position, it's how you communicate, how you position yourself, how you show yourself. And the user is going, even if it doesn't show up in it doesn't rank anymore. There's no more search traffic unless you're actually doing a navigational search for that website. They're going to hit your website at a certain point just to figure out, especially if you're dealing with a more complicated conversion or a more complex product or a more expensive product, they're going to look at who you are, and who you are is your website. So you better have something decent up there.
Yeah. I think it'd be fun to have it be more of an experience. Like maybe that's remember back in the 90s and you'd go on a site and there's Flash and it was like, welcome. And there's things.
The tables everywhere.
I kind of see a world where we go back a little bit, because everything comes back in style, right? And it's not, technology has improved so much where it's just like, hey, how's it going? And check out this thing.
Someone was saying that that's what websites are going to go back to being more interactive and more kind of like they were in the 90s, although like less cringy, hopefully.
I think the key is, the key is that they're structured in a way that LLMs can read them. Right.
Right.
So I kind of think that websites, even now and going into the future, people are going to think of them as more like a knowledge base. Like I'm going to structure this like a knowledge base, and I'm going to make sure that I'm doing things like, the LLM text files and robot text files and the FAQ formats and all these kind of things that we know that right now anyway, LLMs like. And so that schema set up on the back end and, those types of things. So I don't know, are they essentially going to serve as kind of a knowledge base for AI?
That's really interesting. It's funny because I feel like yes and no. I think somewhere in the middle between that, there was a story Barry Schwartz was covering as an SEO roundtable the other day. People were talking about marking down the entire website so that AI could ingest it better. You turn the whole you want to turn the whole website into. That's crazy. Like people come to you, like users, people interact with your websites. You clearly can't do that. And the fact that people think that maybe that's a good idea just kind of shows like somehow, like, again, brain hitting inside of skull splat. Like, I don't understand, but but really SEO is dead. First off, it's not. Two is technical SEO, which we haven't really taught, is wildly, because there is so much, and I'm not on that technical side like that. There's so much that goes into that. I mean, LLM.txt files, that's a whole debate. Google has said no, that it's not an actual thing. Schema, they say they don't use, although Bing says for Copilot, they do look at schema. Schema is good to have on your website anyway. Like that's just a good, what's funny? Uses schema? Oh God, technical writers use markup. Like there's so many ways that people use markup that like, I know SEO, like it's not even part of the SEO conversation. But yeah, figuring out, just like it's been about you have to structure your websites that Google can access it and it can understand the hierarchy of your website, understand internal linking, which pages are more valuable than other pages. You're going to have to figure out how to structure your website in a way that it's important to you to have an LLM bot make sure that it crawls it and reads that correctly, that is structured the right way for that. I don't know what that means necessarily. I don't think I think the idea of a knowledge base as a website is super interesting. Because if users are getting, or users are terrible, your audience is getting an experience of your content from somewhere else and then coming to your website after that, then it's not the first touch point like it might have been, then maybe the way you think about constructing your website is different altogether. That's interesting. I haven't really thought about that. That's cool.
And you're not just in your experience, but like in an ideal state. Should branding be owned by the CEO and leadership, or should it be owned by marketing?
I have like the spicy answer. I
Yeah.
have two things I want to do before I die. And just two. One is I want to go to every baseball stadium in one season.
All right.
And the other one is go to every Fortune 500 CEO and ask them what their brand identity is and watch them flub over the answer and record it.
That would make that would make some great footage for sure.
That would be amazing, right? And we could do it at a baseball stadium. We can do both in one shot.
There you go.
I have this hot take. So one of the things about that's like Danny Goodwin at Search Engine Land was doing a story about, I forgot where the actual data came from, so apologies. Who owns LLM visibility? And it was something like 7% said leadership, and 65% of companies said the SEO team. And that's crazy. That is ridiculous. The CMO needs to, and by proxy, the CEO does, because this is a point I started with Will Reynolds, but he's like, no, you're wrong. The CMO shouldn't be the person, because the CMO is just going to do what keeps his job and what keeps their job, and the CEO will fire them. So the CEO also needs to have buy-in. So the answer is the CEO, but in a more immediate sense, the CMO. That person, or whether it's a head or whoever it is in an organization that can unsilo the stuff, needs to be in charge. Whoever that person is, because if it's, let's say, the SEO team and LLM visibility, but if LLM visibility is now about your digital footprint, so that's social, that's PR, that's content, that's partially brand. And by the way, teams are split up. Like you'll have a team that creates the LPs is usually not the SEO team, and it's usually a brand team. And the team that creates the blog post is usually the SEO team. And they could be sending conflicting messages, forget to an LLM to the audience. So it always should be the CMO, which is ridiculous to me, or a head of brand or head of marketing, somebody in at that level. The fact that it's not is ridiculous, and it just creates silos. And that goes back to, wow, I'll go full circle on this. That goes back to how the internet has been structured until now, which is basically channels. The teams are structured according to channel, paid, social, SEO, whatever it is. And in a world where it's not about channels, it's about perception and visibility, which is cross-channel, the whole idea of siloing your teams by a channel doesn't make sense anymore. It never really did make sense. Obviously, you still need people to work on those channels, but there should be a lot of more cross-channel integration. And someone was, Jen Cornwell was writing an article on Search Engine Land about this the other week, like, SEOs need to unsilo their team. Yeah, and it's really difficult. It's very hard, and SEO teams are losing their mind right now because they're in charge of this thing, but they don't have control over the thing, because the control comes from being over social, being over the content team, syncing with the brand team, and that is the CMO, or that is the director of marketing, or that is a head of brand. So it's on them. And that needs to, by the way, the head of brand, the director of marketing, whoever, the VP of whatever, if the CEO is not bought in, they will not do that. The reason I'm able to do what I'm doing now at SEO Ranking is because our CEO is bought in on this idea. If it weren't, I would do it anyway, because like that's just me, but the CMO is not going to do it. They'll lose their job.
And becomes really fragmented. I think that was a great hot take, and I think everybody should take note, and if the CEO isn't on board with it, it's going to be a lot harder as a brand manager or just a marketer. But something that has stood out in your story, Mordy, that I think everybody should be able to take this inspiration away is you can pivot, you can be in control of your career, you can fill in these gaps and just step up and say, hey, it sounds like you've pushed back a lot too, of just speaking up and saying, yeah, we can do that, but it's not going to work. And I don't know if you're just doing it in a more elegant way, but I think people should take note, because you're right, it won't work unless everything is aligned.
Can I say I used to not be good at that? I used to be bad at that. It was very hard. Like adjusting to Wix in the beginning was very difficult, because I was used to working with smaller teams, and you can have those opinions. And when you're trying to move a larger organization and steer a larger organization towards a different way of thinking or a different mindset, that requires a different level of communication, which I did not appreciate when I first started at Wix, which I appreciate now. You can definitely steer things, and you should I feel like, it's my hot take, you should definitely be vocal about the things. If you don't, all that's going to happen is just going to kick the can down the line, and it will eventually just hit the fan in some way, shape, or another. But you just have to do it in a way where you feel like you're uplifting the team with you and bringing them with you versus fighting against them. That's my best advice.
What resource helped you learn that? Was it just learning the hard way, or did you
I think
read?
it's like a lot of just this is gonna sound like a lot of knowing, like, know thyself
Mm-hmm.
and realizing like what things are difficult, easier, where do I need to make some adjustments, my own personality even, in order to be more successful. And that's really the hard work, is working on yourself. Wow, we just got deep. Sorry.
You did get deep. I got goosebumps. That was great.
So tell me more about SE ranking. What do they do? Why are they important right now to marketers in general?
We have 3 tool stacks. There's SE ranking, which is competitor research, web audits, keyword research, keyword rank tracking, and LLM search. We have another tool called SE visible, which goes a little bit deeper into the LLM prompt tracking equation. So there's a little bit of overlap between SE ranking and SE visible. It's like an add-on experience where you go a little bit deeper into the LLM side of things. And we have Plannable, which is a social media platform where it's cool because one is, if you are just like a content person, you can plan out your content and you can get approvals inside the platform. But if you're an SEO person, it's very cool because you can now track your performance across social media channels. So the cool thing about what SEO ranking does is it kind of gives you the ability to see what's happening across your ecosystem. Are my LLM mentions up? Is that correlating with my search traffic? Is that I can integrate Google Analytics? Is that correlating with my direct traffic? Am I seeing, I'll give you an interesting example I was thinking of the other day. Imagine, let's say like Nike was pivoting. Nike was not going to make shoes anymore. They're going to make cars. And you know who has a problem with this? Garmin has a problem with this. You know, they make the watches. In my day, I'm going to date myself again, Garmin made that thing you plugged into your car. There was no phone that you could use there was MapQuest, where you had to print out the directions. Holy crap. And then there was a thing you can play. Young people, there's a thing you could plug into your car that acted kind of like Waze, but it was like 5 times bigger than your cell phone. And Garmin was the main company that made them. A lot of the legacy content on the web for Garmin is about navigational devices. So AI has a little bit of a hard time parsing out who's Garmin. Are they relevant for smartwatches, or are they more relevant for navigational stuff?
Or fishing. That's, in my world, everybody has a Garmin, and it's for their boat.
Is it really?
Yes.
See, I didn't even think about that. Oh, wow.
And then
That's cool.
in my world, if you've got a Garmin, that means you're looking at the distance to the pin on the golf course.
Wow. Garmin is like, I
It's
did not realize how diverse that brand actually is, which just goes to
They
show
could
you.
sell cars. Like,
Yeah.
that would make more sense than Nike.
So imagine Garmin is they're trying to pivot into more into, I don't know, the watch thing, which they are. They're seeing they would want to make sure their LLM mentions are going up, and they might want to see their social media followers maybe go down. Because if I'm following Garmin because I'm really into navigational devices for my car, but now Garmin's talking about smartwatches, whatever it is, unfollow. I don't into that. Or if imagine Nike started making cars. If Nike started making cars and started talking about cars, they would want to see if the LLM is understanding them about cars, and they would want to see maybe their engagement rate go up, but they want to see their actual subscribers maybe go down in the beginning stages, because people who follow Nike about shoes don't care about cars. They want to walk. They don't want to drive. That's stupid. I don't want to follow Nike now. So the cool thing about SE ranking is you can track all those correlations because we have all those data sets.
It sounds like a really complex, but just looking at the website, its user interface is excellent. It seems like a really well done website, and the branding as well. Like, you actually can figure out what they do. So good job.
Thanks. I'm going to redo all of that at some point, though. So,
Well, I know you made a lot of bold moves at Wix. You knew the brand identity and you stuck to your guns. So I'm expecting, the same approach with the SE ranking.
full steam ahead.
Very good. Very good. All right. This is kind of a fun question. If not for marketing, what would you be doing?
Oh, color commentary for baseball games on the radio.
I like it. Yeah. I could see that.
I can see that.
Especially if you're going to hit every stadium in one summer.
Yeah. And now they all play. I guess, yeah. Was that? No, you couldn't. Every team does play each other now. It used to be like that didn't happen, but there's some games are home. But maybe in 2 or 3 seasons, I could probably hit every stadium.
The Minnesota Twins got to be your favorite team, right?
You're a Twins fan? Boy, I'm a Yankees fan.
Over.
They're really beating up on the
Podcast
Twins.
is over.
Yeah. No, I don't have anything against the Twins. In fact, I love the Twins because we win so many games against them.
Yeah, we help your record, I'm sure.
Yeah.
All right.
Really happy about the Twins. Oh, first off, Twins are like a classic Kirby Puckett. Growing up, like that was a Jack Morris. That is great Paul Molitor. Okay, I'll stop. Sorry.
Well, you should do a podcast on baseball.
There you go.
I should.
Could see that.
Gotta find time.
See that.
No one's gonna listen to that. Forget it. No, I'm not doing
that. Mordy, if you listen to the podcast, this is all about lifting up other marketers. So who would you like to lift up and give a shout out to?
Celeste Gonzalez. It would be a great person to follow. She's over at Rickety Roo, which is a local SEO agency, I think in Oregon. And she puts out a lot of she has a whole newsletter, which you subscribe to. And she puts out a lot of really thoughtful content in general. So
what's her name again?
Celeste Gonzalez.
Actually, I want to ask you about LinkedIn. You appear to be doubling down on LinkedIn. Lots of posts, lots of good video, lots of content. Love it. What's driving that, and what kind of results are you seeing?
What's driving that is that Twitter died, which I really am upset about because I used to look at Twitter as a great place to learn SEO. It was a really great place to interact with people, and it'd be. You're working on something, you need a brain break for 5 minutes. So my brain break would be like, have some fun with Barry Schwartz on Twitter and mess around a little bit. So I miss that. I think it's the old teacher in me kind of thing. I like sharing stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I could not, like, there are some people who like, you need to have the visibility because that's part of your role. I could take a step back and just focus on the brand work that I'm doing with the team and not do this. I think it would be a waste because like it's good marketing anyway, but I kind of just like sharing stuff. And yeah. I literally like, I'll think of something. I was talking to somebody, I'm like, oh, that's a great thing to talk about. Like, that's so interesting. And I'll like email myself, like post this. And the results, LinkedIn's weird, generally good. There are definitely weird lulls in like LinkedIn's whatever. I don't care. Like, I don't look at my impressions. I was looking at them today, actually, ironically enough. I'm saying don't look at my impressions. For the team, we launched a new series called Expert Takes on the SE Ranking LinkedIn channel, where we should get you all on this. Also, I'll swing around on this, where we're just taking people's takes in a carousel on different topics. And I wanted to see where like the performance, I was showing somebody, like we can track blah, blah, blah. I was looking at my impressions, which I guess are up, which is great. I don't care. Gary Sussman from my polling asked me, what do you care about your performance on LinkedIn? I really don't. I just kind of like sharing. I really miss the fact that there's less interaction on LinkedIn. My feed is filled with so much garbage. It's really hard to find a couple of things that are like nice you can comment on, but it doesn't have that same kind of back and forth kind of feel, which I kind of miss. And I think if you're talking from a marketing perspective, there are people who see but don't engage. So if you're not necessarily seeing like interaction on LinkedIn or whatever social platform you're on, don't discard it necessarily, because people see but don't necessarily interact. So don't be discouraged if you don't see performance on LinkedIn, I guess. That's what I'm trying to say.
Good segue. Where could people connect with you if they want to follow you?
Definitely not on TikTok. I don't even know what TikTok. You know, my sister's on TikTok and she'll send me stuff. I can't even open it on my phone because it won't let you watch it on mobile unless you have the app, which I don't. So then I have to open up WhatsApp on my desktop and like, it's ridiculous.
So LinkedIn and Twitter and follow SE Ranking.
Ranking, all the stuff we have on the LinkedIn. We're on YouTube, Twitter, X. We have a whole academy. Check out the blog. We do a lot of research studies, so check that out. We just covered by the next web about our review data in LLMs. That's
Awesome.
pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll be keeping an eye on you across all those platforms and channels, and just keep up the great work. The content is super helpful. So really appreciate you taking the time today as well.
Yeah. So thanks for having me.
Thanks, Mordy.
Thanks for joining the LiftKit Marketing Podcast. I'm your host, John Hoft, founder of LiftKit Marketing, a consultancy dedicated to supporting agencies and marketers with their digital growth strategies.
And I'm the co-host, Danielle Schermerhorn, a former agency owner and current e-commerce specialist with deep experience across both brand and agency sides of the marketing world.
Each week, we'll bring you conversations with marketing professionals who are doing great work, whether they're leading teams, building campaigns, launching products, or just figuring it out behind the scenes.
Our guests will share their personal journeys, the real stories behind their success, the challenges they faced, and the wins they're most proud of. We'll also hear what's next for them and what they see on the horizon for the industry.
At LiftKit Marketing, we believe in celebrating people, recognizing great work, and lifting up those who are making an impact. Thanks for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed the episode.